to the launch event of All Digital Week's campaign. My name is Peter Palvolgyi, and the All Digital Week's campaign is one of the major pan-European awareness-raising campaigns on digital skills, inclusion, and employment. And it's organized by the All Digital Network, and it's been running since 2010. Since then, it has helped 1.4 million people to get online for the first time or enhance their digital skills, fully exploiting the potential of digital transformation. And every year, the awareness-raising campaign brings over 100,000 participants from more than 20 European countries in exciting online and offline events and training opportunities tackling digital transformation. And the campaign takes place in digital competence centers, libraries, community centers, schools, and other venues across Europe. And it involves international and national partners and participating organizations in different European countries. We are starting the campaign today on the 14th of March, and it will continue until the 14th of April. And during the 5 weeks of the campaign, we will focus on specific weekly topics under which training programs and events will be organized at international, but also at national, regional, local levels across Europe. The motto of this year's campaign is enhance your digital skills. And this is our call to action for all Europeans to take an active part for a better future. The campaign intends to maximize the impact and give a lot of visibility of events and activities run by All Digital members and its partners. The All Digital Week's campaign is supporting the implementation of the Digital Education Action Plan with the main objective of enhancing digital skills and competencies for digital transformation. And our campaign also contributes to the promotion of the European Year of Youth through the organization of specific events and training, supporting young people in digital transformation. Now, I would like to thank our supporters and partners. The All Digital Week's campaign is supported by the European Commission, partners like Huawei Technologies, Microsoft, and Certiport. And we would also like to thank our strategic partners who are supporting, spreading the word and the visibility of the campaign. Let me mention them: the DSIS Network, the European Federation for Intercultural Learning, Europeana, European Parents Association, the European Digital SMEs Alliance, the European Association of Institutes for Vocational Training, the Lifelong Learning Platform, Median Learning Association, and OBESSU, the Organizing Bureau of European School Students' Unions. And I would also like to thank hundreds of local partners who are joining the campaign through their events and activities. Today, the launch event will be opened by Commissioner Mariya Gabriel with keynote speech. She's the EU Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, providing reflections on policy updates on the Digital Education Action Plan and why the focus on digital education will strengthen Europe. After the Commissioner, we invited our industry partners and supporters to address the participants with their keynote speech. First, Tony Yin from Huawei, Chief Representative to the European institutions, will speak about driving demand-driven skills development to nurture digital talent and bridge the digital divide. Following our Microsoft, our partner and supporter, and its representative, Jeremy Rollison, Senior Director, European Government Affairs from Microsoft, will give us a keynote speech on skilling for the future, building a more inclusive skills-based society. And after the keynotes, an insightful panel discussion will follow, considering the different views of European Commission, the industry, stakeholders in digital skills and education field. And we thank you very much, all of you, for accepting our invitation to the launch event and contributing to the discussion. So I would like to wish you an interesting and a nice event. And dear Commissioner Mariya, Gabriel, I would like to thank you for welcoming participants with your keynote address, and the floor is yours.
Now it's okay? Do you hear me?
Sounds
Yes.
perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, dear hosts and participants. It is a pleasure to be here with you to launch the 2022 All Digital Weeks. And let me start by thanking All Digital for the invitation. You have been relentless in your mission, developing digital skills in Europe. And your organization, along with all your members, are a great example of the reason why we have focused so much on supporting stakeholder organizations. From 1 week, 12 years ago, to over 5 weeks in 2022, your work stands as a testament to how seriously you take digital inclusion and empowerment. Because nobody is born digitally competent, not even those that are born into this digitalized world. When 80th graders across a number of member states were tested in 2018, more than 1/3 performed below the threshold for basic digital skills. Now, imagine how these children would cope without support, without digital education, in a world where digital skills are the foundation to so many learning opportunities, the foundation for democratic participation, even for the discovery of new interests and communities. Furthermore, today only 56% of adults have basic digital skills. Imagine if almost half of adults were simply excluded from digital life. Every day we are confronted with new demands in the labor market. The pandemic has accelerated the use of advanced digital technologies in all sectors. And these challenges call for new types of education and training provision and for lifelong learning. And of course, digital transformation cannot be fully realized without a strong, talented ICT professional workforce. As of 2019, there were 7.8 million ICT specialists in the EU, yet we estimate that we'll need as many as 20 million by 2030, and we need more women in these careers too. Today, it is clear that we are not as close to our targets as we had hoped. To reach them, we need more than business as usual. We need a large-scale transformation of digital education, including a broad transformation of the provision of digital skills at all levels. And this is not a challenge for governments alone, not even for education systems as a whole. It is a challenge for all of us, for society. We need a wide range of stakeholders, from public institutions and national authorities to NGOs and the private sector. And indeed, our stakeholders are fundamental in this pursuit. And I think it is clear in our work how seriously we take your participation and a constant broad dialogue. Take, for example, the structured dialogue on digital education and skills with our member states. If we want to think the future of education, we need different perspectives from multiple angles. Digital skills require a more transformational joint effort at European, national, and local level. At European level, we have joined forces, combining the expertise of different commissioners and their services to tackle this challenge on all fronts, from finance and the labor market to infrastructure and, of course, education. Member states have the holistic perspective of their education systems, and the structured dialogue is an opportunity to consider how far we have come and how far we need to go, a chance to discuss approaches at the highest level, to see how each member state can best support their education systems and the stakeholder organizations within and around them. And it is a chance to discuss how much investment we still need, how to target it, and what else needs to be done in addition to funding. And the results of our joint work will feed into the future actions at European level on digital education and skills, as well as Council recommendations on enabling factors for digital education and improving the provision of digital skills. So you can see the structured dialogue is a very important political action that we are leading in support of digital education, but it is far from being the only one. The Digital Education Action Plan, that's what I want to talk about. In the Digital Education Action Plan, digital skills are the core of the second priority. And we have 7 actions that are aimed at developing digital skills and competencies. They are a clear reason why digital skills are so prominent in the action plan. The figures that we have on digital skills are quite worrying. Since 2015, the share of adults with at least basic digital skills has increased by only 2 percentage points, from 54 to 56%. Yet everyone is going online, and we set the goal in our digital decade to reach 80% by 2030. And indeed, one of the most important areas in which we have to work, which is directly connected to this goal, are digital skills and media literacy. Because digital skills are not limited to learning about tools and technologies. Digital skills require the critical thinking skills to exercise judgment, analyze complex realities, and ultimately recognize the difference between fiction, opinion, and fact. Which is why last year, I set up an expert group to support the Commission in developing guidelines on tackling disinformation and promoting digital literacy through education and training. And in its activities, the group focused on examining good practice, on promoting digital literacy and tackling disinformation, on teacher training and innovative pedagogies. It also explored the importance of critical thinking, debunking and pre-bunking when encountering disinformation. And we are currently working with experts from all over Europe who are finalizing a background report as we speak, which will serve as a basis for developing guidelines that I will present by the end of this year. And these guidelines and the expertise of this group will also feed into the discussions we must have at all levels, from local to European. Another salient issue to discuss and act upon is gender equality. Not only do we need safe environments for women online, we need women to be able to act upon the digital space. And to tackle this gender divide, making sure that everyone's talent is included in the digital transformation, we have established Girls Go Circular, operated by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, or EIT. And through this Girls Go Circular initiative, we are planning to engage 40,000 girls in STEM-related activities by 2027. We want to boost their digital skills as they learn about the circular economy, getting them into STEM fields, an issue I know is close to the work of all digital. And this may seem like a small action, but only 40,000 girls over 7 years, but the lessons from this action will feed into other work by stakeholders or by schools. And all these actions, the digital education hackathon, the digital opportunity traineeships, together they provide a wealth of insight into how governments and civil society at all levels can work together. And finally, we have the Digital Education Hub, where we want the community of stakeholders, including you, of course, to tackle the challenges we face and make the most of the resources we have marshaled for you. Stakeholder organizations often have points of view from the ground, looking at problems with greater granularity. And this expertise can and should be shared. And our ultimate success hinges on your execution just as much as it hinges on member states pooling resources and working together. So, dear friends, these are ambitious goals. And I know I'm preaching to the core when I say that they are absolutely necessary. which brings me to my last point. Yes, dialogue and joint work is essential, but so are resources. This is well acknowledged by the Commission. We encourage member states to spend 20% of the Recovery and Resilience Facility on digital investment, and I'm proud to say this target was exceeded. Based on the plans currently adopted, 30% of the total spending on education, approximately 13.8 billion, is devoted to digital education, which is a key focus of nearly all national plans. And we also have further opportunities for investing in digital skills with the Digital Europe and the Erasmus Plus programs or the European Social Fund. And these funds will be better used because of the structured dialogue, of the expertise we are building around so many of our actions, but also because of how you will ultimately put some of them to work as they reach our grassroots. So we are at the turning point for the development of digital skills. We need the support of all education and training stakeholders. And I count on you to carry on bringing this vision forwards. So let me once again thank you all for the cooperation on this common objective of pushing for the development of digital skills. And allow me to say, I wish you a great 5 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and we really appreciate your partnership and continued support. You as a person do a lot of things and very important things to improve, to enhance digital skills and competencies across Europe, and your fantastic team from the DG. I would like to highlight that we do have selected specific topics during the week, which we really support with what you said: enhancing digital skills, promoting digital inclusion, accessibility, gender equality by encouraging girls and women participation in STEM studies and careers, or fostering digital literacy and tackling disinformation. So we will be really focusing our campaign on these important topics. Thank you again very much for your keynote address, and we really appreciate that you joined us today. Now I would like to call for the second keynote speaker, and at the same time thank Huawei Technologies to support the All Digital Weeks campaign. Tony Yin, Chief Representative to the European Commission, European institutions from Huawei, who will be speaking on demand-driven skills development to nurture digital talent and to bridge the digital divide. Tony, thank you very much for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Peter. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to join all of you today in this launch event of the All Digital Weeks 2022 to discuss how to enhance your digital skills. First and foremost, I wish to thank All Digital for convening such an important event in the European Year of Youth. The future of our economy and industries is indeed in the hands of the younger generations. And that is why we must work together with young people to build an even more inclusive and sustainable digital age. I'm convinced that through open collaborations, we can enhance the digital skills and bridge the digital divide and nurturing the digital talents. And in the digital economy, everybody knows digital talent is key to driving digital transformations and economic growth, ultimately securing our European social system and way of life. The digital economy has not only generated new business models, but also it is serving as the foundation for industry development. So Europe is a world leader in education, talent, and research. It also has extensive innovation ecosystems, and a solid digital value chain. The digital economy presents an opportunity for Europe to reshape its industry positions. And we at Huawei stand ready to work with European partners and collaborate with European universities to pass on digital skills, spread digital ideas, and bridge the digital divide. We stand ready to increase our investments into industrial research and skilling, reskilling, and upskilling programs to build the talent backbone to develop a solid European digital infrastructure. Huawei is committed to develop the ICT and the digital talent in every country where we operate. Since 2008, we launched a different talent development program, including scholarship, technology competitions, and digital skill trainings. Since then, we have invested over 130 million euros, benefiting more than 1.5 million people from over 150 countries. And last year, we announced a future investments of 35 million euros to support the European talent development in ICT domain over the next 5 years. And we launched the School for Female Leadership in Digital Age as part of Huawei broader initiative Seeds for the Futures. Additionally, in 2021, we hold our annual competition Huawei University Challenge in 9 European countries, including Belgium, Finland, France, Italy, and Sweden, to reward undergraduates who developed the new ideas on AI, 5G, VR, and cybersecurity during their STEM university courses. So we worked with more than 100 European universities and involved more than 1,000 European undergraduate students. Through knowledge and technology transfer, Huawei and the local experts help students shape technological skills over many hours of dedicated lectures, coding, assignments, and labor tours in Europe and China, these students to get ready for global digital job markets. We also believe that through practical exercise and know-how that we can solve the real-world industry problems that needed to be solved in order to enable a fully connected and intelligent world. So with this spirit, Huawei is honored to power International Collegiate Programming Contest, ICPC training campus to support high-level programming training and innovation for college students who are passionate about programming and algorithms. We are committed to open research platforms that are oriented to the future of the information in terminals, computings, and connectivities, to create opportunities for the next generation of problem solvers as they explore the challenger subject areas that advanced science and the technologies are proper industries to meet the needs of tomorrow. Over the past 20 years of operation in Europe, and we have already upheld the principle of in Europe for Europe, and continuously contributed to Europe by leveraging our strengths and that for our partners. In the future, we hope to serve as a value creator for the European digital ecosystems. Talent is so essential to our future development and innovations, and Huawei is committed to long-term talent cultivations. We hope to do this together. We will help enhance people's digital skills by combining the strengths of the European traditional industries with vocational training. We can significantly improve the skills of digital talent across the whole Europe. Huawei ICT Academy has already launched the Learn On program and AI Academy to address the shortage of ICT specialists. We have offered more than 300 offline and online free courses accessible to all the people, including courses to learn about AI. We will help improve the digital talent cultivation process. We encouraged schools to integrate digital skills training into their study programs, helping students to acquire digital skills for future employment. In 2019, Huawei expanded the Smart Bus project in Belgium, the Netherlands, Spain, and Portugal. And this project aimed to provide better digital skills education for young people aged 11 to 15 by bringing mobile digital classroom into the schools and teaching students to use digital technologies safely and intelligently. To date, the Smart Bus has cooperated with more than 126 schools and provided digital skills training for more than 20,000 students. So since 2011, Huawei has organized the Seeds for the Future program in Europe involving over 2,000 European students from more than 30 countries to learn about advanced technologies, gain hands-on experience in the ICT sector, speak with Huawei global experts, and contribute to the technological advancement. We will provide training and assistance to those who lack basic digital skills to stop the digital divide from widen futures, a divide that has already been furthered in the past 2 years. Huawei's DigiTruck program brings mobile classroom to remote areas, raising awareness with local community about the benefit of digital skills. So the teachers in the remote area can use digital technologies to provide students with access to digital information as early as possible. And the young entrepreneurships can study e-commerce and earn more revenue through the internet. Also, women can become more financially independent thanks to our computing technologies. But we know that's not enough. We must and we will strive to reduce the gender gap in the digital workplace. And Huawei believes that in the digital era, we need more female leaders. Huawei is dedicated to making ICT skills more accessible. In 2021, Huawei launched the Schools for Female Leadership in the Digital Age, a fully funded educational program that aims to close the gender gap and create a world where the women are empowered to lead us into the digital futures, in fully alignment with the European Commission's commitment, like Commissioner Gabriel mentioned, to achieve a gender equal Europe by 2025. The first edition attracted over 1,200 applications from young women across the whole Europe. In August 2021, 27 students from each EU member state joined the program in Lisbon, Portugal. The School for the Female Leadership in the Digital Age offers a unique program to learn about the challenges and opportunities of the fourth industry revolutions. At the school, they acquired core soft skills such as coding, public speaking, and teamwork. They learn how they can strive in the current labor market and build a community of young female leaders across the EU. The success of this initiative makes it clear that there is an increased need and a desire to empower people in the digital age. We therefore have recently organized the winter editions, which just concluded last month in Nice, France. The winter school, in partnership with the European Training Foundation, attracted nearly 2,500 applications across Europe. Thanks to the fruitful collaboration with the European Training Foundations, we were able to offer 28 scholarships to 27 students from each member state and one for the representative from the West Balkan 6. In line with the principle, leave no one behind, the Schools of Female Leadership in the Digital Age present the company's continued commitment to digital inclusions. In the word of Laura, our summer school representative from Ireland, she said, "This was the best 6 days of my life. I had the chance to learn so much about how important we are to the future of Europe and the world, and how my tech skills are relevant in so many different areas. I really appreciate the opportunity to have met so many intelligent and empowering women from across Europe who I really felt I clicked with. It was such a life-changing experience." Over the past 30 years, we have made continued investment into scientific research. Last year, Huawei ranked second in the EU industry R&D investment scoreboard. But people are the true engine of innovation and progress. And we owe our significant progress in Europe to nearly 4,000 researchers that foster Huawei's and our partners' development. During my time as CEO of Huawei Spain, I was impressed by the resilience of our young engineer who through continuous practice have quickly grown from assistant engineer to senior engineer in charge of teams building our critical infrastructure and ensure connectivities for all. Driven by the resilience of our young professionals, we are even more committed to bridge the digital divide and develop the strategies and the programs to reduce the digital skills gap and the skills mismatch. We have recently developed a white paper to look into the best strategies to reduce the shortage of digital skills in Europe. And we are grateful to partners such as All Digital for their invaluable inputs. And I invite you all to read the report, which will be presented in the coming weeks. I look forward to your comments and feedback and to collaborating with European partners to offer young Europeans and young digital talents a voice and a venue to drive our inclusive and sustainable digital transformations in Europe. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Tony, for your keynote addresses. And I believe that All Digital, its member organizations, and Huawei will be able to join forces in order to involve our members and clients in the digital talent development program, which we find really interesting and forward-looking. Of course, to close the gender gap and support women participation in ICT related fields, and we do believe and share the same vision that women will be able to lead digital transformation, and not to forget about the remote areas, those places where accessibility might be still a concern. And most of our member organizations, more than 60% of our digital competence centers are located in rural areas. So I think we can really work together on achieving great results in this field. Thank you very much for your notes, and I believe in the panel discussion we will hear more about Huawei's initiatives. And thank you again for supporting All Digital Week's campaign.
Thank you.
And now I would like to ask Jeremy Rollison to join us. He's the Senior Director of Microsoft, working on European government affairs, and he will be speaking about skilling for the future, building a more inclusive, skills-based economy. And again, thank you very much for supporting All Digital Week's campaign.
And thank you, Peter, and thanks to All Digital for bringing this together and giving us the opportunity to talk today. And thanks to the European Commission for their participation and ongoing feedback. I look forward to some of the panel discussions, and I hope I don't steal too much thunder from some of my colleagues there. But at a chance to talk about this at a perhaps higher level, I think we do start from what we've learned in the pandemic. I think there's been good news from the pandemic. I was fortunate that we had some of the digital infrastructure in place and those digital services to keep alive communications channels, to keep alive some of the work that could be done from home. And we've learned more and more about what type of work we can do remotely and how we can improve platforms to make sure that people are continuing to be able to stay connected, to continue to learn, to continue to join colleagues and coworkers. But another important lesson from the pandemic is that experience was much, much different if you didn't have the same types of connectivity, if you didn't have some of the same familiarity or even tools to kind of participate in that digital fallback that we had, where everyone could continue to communicate, continue to go to school, continue to show up virtually at the office. But that experience was much, much different in certain corners of Europe and across the globe, really, where there wasn't, again, that same level perhaps of infrastructure. And along with that is also the skills that goes towards that. I always start off by even telling the story of someone like my mother, who was a social worker, used to seeing clients face to face, which wasn't possible during the pandemic. I think many of us may take for granted Teams and Zoom and video conferencing tools that we've gotten very familiar with. But if you've never had exposure to that in the first place, it can be a little bit daunting in terms of developing the skills necessary to know how to go digital with your business or with your way of engaging with customers or clients. So there are soft skills there. There are, much different types of digital skills that we want to make sure, from an inclusion perspective, we're making sure everyone has access to these tools, has an understanding and familiarity with these tools. Before the pandemic, we talked a lot about what the jobs of the future would look like. We talked a lot about digital transformation in that context, and how companies from non-traditionally digital sectors were hiring more and more data scientists, needing more and more coders on staff, moving digital. I think the lessons from the pandemic is that, certainly none of that has necessarily changed. In fact, it's kind of become reinforced. As our CEO has said, we saw about 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. But as we've gone through such a difficult 2 years, we've learned a lot about what type of skills are needed, what type of needs businesses have in terms of their digital transformation journeys. And we've also learned, how jobs have changed already over that 2 years, and how some of those jobs that were lost, there was a particularly difficult time for a lot of different folks who couldn't so easily just move to digital platforms and have that level of continuity. As some of those jobs that are lost that may not come back, or may not come back fast enough to meet demand, we want to make sure that we're continuing to provide access to the tools and reskilling or upskilling opportunities that are going to be needed to leverage those jobs of the future and support those jobs of the future. So this is creating a skilling challenge for individuals and employers alike. Again, I think we talked a lot, and I've spoken today about some of the key trends already that we knew skilling needs would continue to exist. So we're talking about artificial intelligence or cybersecurity. All of that has just been reinforced by our experience through the pandemic. And as I mentioned earlier, what's been reinforced, I think, by the pandemic is sometimes the lack of equal access to those skilling tools and those skilling programs. And so we've made a number of announcements in that space that I think reflects some of those learnings. We still see a need for the development of these skills across different industries. We see employers and employees, looking for opportunities to either maintain lifelong learning curricula, looking at what skills are most in demand, where there are vacancies for some of those skills. People want to know what the jobs of the future are going to look like and get the skills that they need to take advantage of some of those opportunities. Again, so much of this has just been confirmed by our experience over the past couple of years. For example, we expect close to 150 million tech jobs to emerge by 2025 in areas like software, cybersecurity, AI, machine learning. I think that's remains the case, and I think we all see those trends. We don't want to forget, though, the ways that even traditional sectors that may not be as data science intensive are also becoming more digital and have learned a lot through this pandemic about how to leverage digital tools. So it really is a spectrum of access to skills in a digital context that we want to emphasize. With that in mind, it's not something that technology players or technology companies can do alone. This has to be a joint effort between tech companies, employers, nonprofit groups, and governments in particular. Whether we're talking about developing the hardware assets or we're talking about the software trainings, there's a familiarity there from the technology side. And I think there's also an increasing familiarity amongst policymakers of what skills are going to be most in need and where we may have less workforce resources already equipped to deal with some of those shortages, and making sure that we have local opportunities. And, I think the European Commission has already reflected much of that in many of its recent announcements, and several of which we're happy to be supportive of. So it's a joint initiative that we want to bring together. And I think we're working across Europe and across the globe, really, to not just liaise with policymakers, but also with many of these companies that are seeing these needs more up close. So this relates to some of our partnerships across education, policymaking, but also within large companies, getting the type of engineers and resources present. And one of the things that we leverage a lot there is, our LinkedIn resources and some of the data where we're able to kind of highlight to policymakers, which skills are most in demand in their regions or their jurisdictions, to get a better sense of where vacancies are open or where skilling needs and investments can be made to kind of reflect where those opportunities are. I think we have a few examples more concretely in Europe where some of this comes together with that kind of partnership model in mind. In France, for example, we've launched an AI school with Simplon. which is the aim of training job seekers in AI in order to basically intensify training with the learner in skills related to algorithms, data processing, and the use of AI technologies more broadly. Again, this is something that Microsoft can't do alone, but we're always keen to work with partners who have a better sense maybe of what they're hearing locally in terms of what's missing, in terms of where some of our expertise or some of our tools could be combined and really drive some local outcomes that, once again, leverage some of these digital transformation jobs of the future. We have another initiative in Ireland that I think you'll learn more about later in the day. It's called Step Into Tech Digital Skills Initiative. We partnered with nonprofit FIT to develop a reskilling initiative to support disadvantaged groups in particular, especially those that have been displaced in terms of employment from the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've supported thousands of learners there, along with the nonprofit, to embark on this education pathway to some of those in-demand jobs of the future. And here in Brussels, where my team is based, we have worked with Commission counterparts and others. So this Europe Fit for the Digital Age, I think the commitment there can't be contested. It's equally encouraging to see that commitment to youth and future generations with a recognition of some of those skilling needs. So I think Europe's leadership here in emerging from the pandemic in a more inclusive fashion and a more inclusive recovery is certainly something that should be applauded. The European Skills Agenda, the Youth Employment Support Package, and the Pact for Skills, which Microsoft joined in November of 2020. These are good examples, I think, of where policymakers have recognized some of the needs of the next generation, needs that have only been reinforced by the pandemic, and opportunities to really link up with the private sector and policymakers to make this more of a reality. But the team that I manage here in Brussels is focused on the twin transitions. So we talk, of course, about the digital transformation that everyone is undergoing, but there is a green transition that we have not lost sight of, and I think has once again been only kind of reinforced over some of the experiences from the past couple of years. So Microsoft was, very proud to launch our Global Green Skills Report in 2022, cooperation with LinkedIn, to provide new data on green skills and jobs from all around the world. Once again, trying to help inform policymakers, governments, and business leaders with the type of insights as it relates to the workforce in a green economy future. So the main message that I think we would probably close with, and it's come across hopefully in my remarks, is that this really is a cooperation between the private sector and governments. We have sight on some of the needs we're seeing across our customers. We have experience with trainings and skills developments inside our company and across some of our customer segments. But this goes so much broader than anything one company can do on its own. This is a requirement for investments and a recognition of what's going to be most important in certain regions in particular, where gaps may exist, and how do we close those divides? I think closing any of these digital divides and ensuring that it's the most inclusive outcome possible is something, once again, has to be done in cooperation with private sector and government officials. We leverage a lot LinkedIn's economic graph here to understand more about these trends, where we're seeing some of those gaps emerge and what's most in demand in terms of technical and product skills. And I think that's a really unique opportunity for us to continue to work with policymakers to share some of that information and make sure that we're teamed up the right way with the type of reskilling initiatives that get people back to work in jobs that are here to stay. So to conclude, that goes without saying, digital transformation is going to continue to require new skills. Much of that has been known for some time, and I think has only been reinforced by our experience with the pandemic. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we want to make sure it's as inclusive outcome as possible, and that everyone has access to the tools and skills that they need to make sure that we're leading in that digital transformation journey, both in Europe and around the world. So we really appreciate the efforts of groups like All Digital and some of the partners here today to continue this conversation, and look forward to hearing a lot more about what others are doing in this space and hopefully answering any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and we appreciate your keynote address. And we do agree that digital transformation will require digital and a new type of skills at the same time. And thank you very much for talking about the lessons learned from the pandemic, which really resulted in which actually gave a chance for digital transformation. And we have witnessed a reinforced digital transformation in the end. I would like to also say that Microsoft was very much behind the telecenter movement, which is the origin of all digital, formerly called Telecenter Europe, and you supported the telecenter networks in many countries across Europe and also globally to provide access and support to those who wanted to develop their digital skills. At that time, more access, providing access to tools and technologies, later skills development. Thank you very much for supporting Telecenter Europe, later All Digital, with about 5 or 6 years of continued financial and technical support. Without that, probably we wouldn't be able to exist today as we are now. So we really appreciate your support, and we really appreciate for your support to support the All Digital Weeks campaign. And during the panel discussion, I think there will be a chance to hear more about your initiatives from your colleagues. Thank you, Jeremy, again.
Thank you.
And now I would like to continue with the panel discussion. And I'd like to ask my colleague Norman Rohner, Policy Officer of All Digital, to introduce the panelists and moderate the discussion. Thank you very much, Norman. Norman, you are muted. Can you hear us?
Yes, we cannot.
He cannot unmute. Now you can.
Now I can. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you all to our contributions so far for the great introduction to the panel now. We have 6 speakers that are joining us today. Michael Horgan, who is a policy officer at the European Commission. Giorgia Epicoco, who is from Huawei. Ciaran Conlon, who is representing Microsoft. Giuseppina Tucci, who is presenting the Lifelong Learning Platform and OBESSU. Sebastiano Toffaletti, who is the Secretary General of the Digital SME Alliance. And finally, Altheo Valentini, who is the President of All Digital. And in this conversation, we're hoping to get insights from various different directions on digital competence development. And we would like to begin with Michael Horgan, who is giving us a brief introduction of what the Commission's view on it is. We are currently in the Europe's digital decade, and there have been a lot of initiatives that the Commission has launched that are supporting digital competence development, not only, but also with a very big priority. And over to you, Michael.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Yes?
Very well.
Yes, very good. So thank you very much for this invitation. Thanks, Norman, thanks, Peter, and All Digital for this invitation. What I will try to do is maybe just provide a little bit of context, political context for what we're doing on digital skills and why I think there's a particular imperative at the moment. And then I will maybe focus in a little in a bit more detail on some, more more specific activities, tools that we are working on. So first of all, I think that digital skills really is at the top of the EU's political agenda at the moment, because we realize how big the challenges are. As the Commissioner mentioned, but I'll say it in inverse, 44% of the EU population still has insufficient level of digital skills. And this is in a context where over 90% of jobs require, some level of digital skills. And then we see, of course, collaborative economy, artificial intelligence, robotization, and, e-services, that all these things that require more and new skills. So I would say we're really, we really need a huge drive and further investment to upskill people and give them the skills to face the digital and green transitions. This was really stressed by President von der Leyen in the last State of the Union speech in September. And as has already been mentioned, of course, we've set very ambitious targets in the EU, in the social pillar action plan and the digital compass, to have 80% of adults with at least basic digital skills by 2030. So we really are working in an unprecedented and more intense way on all this. We, with the skills agenda and the digital education action plan, we've really set concrete measures to support the development of digital skills. And an example which was already briefly mentioned is the Pact for Skills, which is one of the actions, indeed the first action of the skills agenda. So this will support really large-scale multi-stakeholder partnerships in all the 14 economic ecosystems that we are addressing. And the idea is to really invest in reskilling and upskilling, including, of course, very importantly, digital skills. Maybe one of the really very new initiatives that I should mention, it was already mentioned by Commissioner Gabriel, is this structured dialogue that we have embarked on. It was called for by the President von der Leyen in the State of the Union speech and was formally launched in October. So it will involve discussions with member states in different settings. And so this will include a discussion with a high-level group of a kind of a national coordinators for every member state, and also discussions in the various European Council formations. And very importantly, we will be having really in-depth bilateral dialogues with member states, structured around 5 pillars that we have set, from impact-focused investment, which will be looking at infrastructure, equipment, connectivity, to the place of digital competences in education and training systems, which of course is key, that people are getting the digital skills they need, and that these are coherently developed in the education system to start people off on the right path. Then one of the pillars is of governance of digital education, training and skills policies, trying to ensure a sort of whole of government approach involving stakeholders and players across the board. And then, of course, very importantly, the role of industry, social partners and other stakeholders. Industry has a really special role to play. And of course, we see translating skills intelligence into effective digital skills policies we see as a very important issue here. Then, of course, digital skills for the labor force and advanced digital skills is another pillar. So we will be starting very soon, in fact, in the next days, with these really in-depth dialogues with member states. And also we will be engaging various stakeholder groups at European level, from industry, social partners, public employment services, educating and training world, and so on. So maybe that I've been sort of developing sort of the policy context. Now let me go a little bit more micro and talk about some of the really specific tools that we've been working at EU level in the skills agenda and the digital education action plan. Firstly, let me mention that the digital competence framework for citizens, DigComp, which has provided a common understanding across the EU and beyond of really what digital competence is, and therefore it has provided a basis for framing digital skills policy, curricula, development and assessment of digital skills, both in the education and labour market sphere. And of course, let me take the opportunity to thank All Digital for their very active work on DigComp. So now we will be updating and launching the update, in fact, in the coming week, of the updated version of DigComp to take account of emerging technologies, AI, datafication, phenomena such as increased teleworking, and of course, misinformation and disinformation. So the idea is to, come with examples of knowledge, skills, and attitudes that really help education and training providers as they are updating DigComp curricula and course material in order that people can better face these challenges and have competence to face these new emerging technologies and challenges. So, DigComp this will focus a lot on things like fact check, online content, digital accessibility, and so on, citizens interacting with AI, and so on. I would just also mention, based on DigComp, we recently launched a digital skills assessment tool based on DigComp to help individuals assess their digital skills levels. And this is available already on the Digital Skills and Jobs platform. The tool gives people a chance to assess their digital skills, but also offers suggestions based on the results of their test, and also indeed possibility of exploring learning paths going forward. So another digital education action plan that I would like to mention is the European Digital Skills Certificate. We're exploring the idea of developing a certificate at European level to help people have their digital skills quickly and easily recognized by employers. This again is very much based on the digital competence framework, so that it will really help people to show and understand their digital skills, and allow them to show their level of digital competence corresponding to DigComp proficiency levels. So at the moment, we're launching a feasibility study to look at scenarios for such a certificate at European level. And then we'll pilot a prototype. I must say that this is in no way trying to replace any kinds of certification or training activities going on, but very much more to offer a sort of a European seal to accompany all the work going on. Let me also just mention two tools, more sort of designed to facilitate lifelong learning and address problems that we have of low adult participation in training, including, of course, in digital. So we have this work on micro-credentials. The Commission has adopted in December a proposal on micro-credentials under the skills agenda for a common approach to increase their quality, reliability, and transparency. We think that micro-credentials, they're already here in a sense. They have a major role to play in making learning more flexible and responsive to labour market needs. But one of the issues really is that the value of micro-credentials is not always as clear as it could be, because there is an absence of transparent standards and a common definition, which creates some uncertainty about value, quality recognition, and transparency and portability, and so on. So I think micro-credentials can be very useful for recognizing skills developed in these bite-sized, these short courses, sometimes outside formal education, and they could indeed play a big make a big contribution in parallel with more formal certificates and degrees in the area of digital skills, because we think it could strongly facilitate provision of very relevant digital skills. And maybe lastly, let me just say a few words about individual learning accounts. The Commission has adopted also a proposal for individual learning accounts under the skills agenda to support people in developing skills. So the Commission has asked countries to assign an account to everyone of working age and provide an amount of credit to people for learning purposes. Very importantly, in the case of individual learning accounts, it has to be accompanied by other non-financial measures, such as good guidance services, which are valuable for everybody and are very necessary as an accompaniment to individual learning accounts. And I'm sure that individual learning accounts will also, have a big role to play in helping people to acquire digital skills, because they will be used substantially for digital skills acquisition. So maybe on that note, I'll just finish, and thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that wonderful overview over the different initiatives. Digital gaps come in various shapes and on very different levels. And a significant role for bridging these digital gaps falls to industry. And so we are pleased to welcome 3 different perspectives in our panel. From one side, a hardware and infrastructure perspective, also from a software and systems perspective, and later on also from perspective from small and medium enterprises. And we begin from this industry perspectives with Giorgia Epicoco, who is Senior EU Public Affairs Manager at Huawei. Giorgia,
Thank
please.
you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation and for having us. It's an honor for Huawei to support the All Digital Weeks 2022 campaign. And we are very pleased to be part of this Enhance Your Digital Skills debate. We have heard many interesting insights from the different stakeholders and partners. And I think it's important to start with the objective that the European Union has set up for 2025. So for 2030. So we're talking about achieving 20 million ICT specialists employed in Europe. While for now, as of 2022, we are still accounting for less than 10 million and only 18.5% of women in the ICT sector. I think these numbers are staggering, and we need to find ways to collaborate, not only between public and private sectors, but also with educational systems, especially with teachers and educators, and start involving more and more the beneficiaries, the youth, the different generations that are like the receivers of reskilling and upskilling educational programs across society. So we have different challenges, of course. We have challenges between and within countries because we have different levels of technological development across the member states. We also have challenges between and within industries. We have multinational, we have national, we have SMEs, we have micro enterprises, we have startups. Of course, they all have a different technological uptake and capacity to employ and deploy ICT talent. We are seeing that the digital economy, especially in Europe, is creating jobs at a 2.8 faster rate compared to previous economic systems. I remember in 2015, I was working on the first strategies of the fourth industrial revolution, and everybody was talking only about the challenges brought about by this digital revolution. Well, now we see that actually the digital economy is creating a big job market, so a big pool of opportunities. However, we are lacking the ICT specialists. So clearly there is a serious issue here in the communication system between the different sectors, but as I said also before, with the beneficiaries. So we are not opening a dialogue appropriate for filling the jobs in the ICT sector with the youth and the people currently in the labor market. So we have different layers of challenges. We can see to fill the gap by involving more women in the ICT sector. However, even though the trend is improving and increasing, we also have a real issue with women with retaining female talent in the ICT sector. So what can we do in that regard? We also have a serious issue in promoting female in the ICT sectors to leadership positions. We have also a challenge in involving more women in STEM courses and fields from an early age. So it's not only a matter of involving female students in university academia courses, but it's also to introduce them to STEM fields from an early age. And this is something that, the industry has to, for sure, propose and promote educational approaches to that and ensure that there are industry-led initiatives, such as the ones we actually promote within Huawei with the School for Female Leadership in the Digital Age. But we also need the support of public sector, of policymakers to ensure that the educational systems are up to date and upgraded. That will also require a training of teachers. Who is going to support that? And for that, we also need public-private partnerships-led initiatives to ensure that we can promote a training of trainers, a training of teachers. And that is something that we highly value and do within Huawei through the ICT Academy. The ICT Academy of Huawei, which has been presented by Tony Jin, our chief earlier on, is a non-profit partnership that authorizes universities and colleges worldwide to provide students with industry-recognized Huawei certification courses. We basically develop talent standards. Standardization is a big challenge as well in terms of identify, define what are the digital skills required by the industries, because we have heard before from Michael on the Digicoms framework, which is a tool for citizens indeed. However, there is, of course, a gap to understand what is the industry needs and what is provided by the public sector to understand what are the digital skills available and required by the labor market. This needs to be done in conjunction with the industry. So through our ICT Academy, this is something we really want to support and establish. And that's why we created an ICT certification systems that covers various technical areas. And the system actually consists of different certifications. And we're talking about ICT and infrastructure certification, platform and service certification, and ITC vertical certification, which cover different technical tracks. We are talking about more than 200,000 ICT professionals that have been trained by the Huawei ICT Academy, including more than 9,000 Huawei certified ICT experts. These are, like digital talent development solutions that offer product technology service and digital leadership training that can then be deployed in the labor market and create a know-how, knowledge transfer and technology transfer. Now, nowadays, as we also have heard from the other speakers earlier on, we're not talking about just a digital transformation, but we're talking about a digital and green transformation. This, of course, poses an additional layer of challenges to the development of digital talent, not only in Europe, but worldwide for that matter. We're talking about the need to develop green digital skills as well. So nowadays, the educational systems are catching up, are trying to catch up to make sure that they develop digital talents and they can be deployed in the labor market. However, it's not only about understanding how to build digital infrastructure. So our engineering course can not only be looking at what it's required to build digital infrastructures in Europe, to ensure full connectivity and interconnectedness between societies and layers of industries. We also need to understand what are the green requirements, the sustainability requirements to build digital infrastructures. And this is going to pose an additional layer of challenges to the development of talent in Europe, which needs to be addressed promptly. We need to ensure that the industry is properly involved in the green revolution, in setting the standards and the taxonomy around the green transition, because otherwise there will be another lagging behind in terms of developing this kind of talent. And we need to ensure that in Europe we have locally recruited and developed talent to build infrastructure required to ensure a full digital transformation within. So engineers will not only be required to study on ICT courses as we understand them in a traditional way, but they will have to look at the green ICT, green digital skills. And this is something that is now being discussed, but it needs to be addressed as well. This is something to be proposed, like in a public-private and development cooperation, I would say, with the different layers of the sectors involved in the digital talent development. And industries are therefore required to invest in these trainings. In trainings that are going to be perceived as useful for achieving the digital and green thing transition. But to be able also to streamline these trainings, we need to first define what we mean by digital skills, what we mean by green skills and green digital skills. And this is where policymakers have a pivotal role to play to address these challenges and ensure that the industry point to the right directions in terms of developing this kind of talent and standards required to develop such talent. I'd like to also point that we require a bottom-up approach in developing these talents. We need a practical based approach, and we have this. Huawei is a very young company, and we, as Tony also mentioned earlier in his keynote speech, we have a lot of young talents that are being employed by the company from an early stage, and through their practical experience in the field, they can acquire their required skills and reskill and upskill automatically because of these hands-on opportunities they have. Actually, to also bring a personal, experience of the company. Our company encourages young Chinese employees to go to the field. Why? Because by building critical infrastructure, digital infrastructures in remote areas that are more challenging and difficult to operate in, they will learn faster, better, and in a safe environment because sponsored and protected by the company. In Europe, we have fantastic programs such as Erasmus Plus that are already providing these kind of opportunities of traineeships for young Europeans to try different opportunities in the labor market. However, we know that the investments in these areas might not be enough, and not every European might have the opportunity to go on an Erasmus Plus traineeship experience. Hence, the industry here again has the power, the opportunity to provide this kind of opportunities to young people to experience in the field, to experience in different countries, also promoting mobility. Labor mobility is also an important element that we have to harness within the European Union. Why? Because as I said in the beginning, different countries, different member states have different levels of development in terms of technological progress. So it's important to share that knowledge and technology and know-how and ensure that different countries and help each other in a way that different countries can actually embrace higher technological uptake. There are like all these challenges and opportunities are there. And we strongly believe that collaboration between public, private, and recipients and receivers can actually ensure a fully digital Europe in the near future. For this, it's also important to bring the example of two very important initiatives, CSR initiatives that we have within Huawei. Seeds for the Future is our CSR flagship program. It brings together talented young students, not only from STEM courses, but also from other courses that have an interest in the digital age. Why? Because we also have to normalize technology. Technology is something that sometimes is perceived as unattainable, unachievable. I don't come from technology myself, but because I was exposed to the digital field, I had the opportunity to join the ICT sector. And this is something that is very important to promote and foster across younger generations. This is something that we do in the Seeds for the Future and the Schools for Female Leadership in the Digital Age, targeting different audiences, of course. It is also relevant within these initiatives to ensure community building, because networking and community building is something absolutely key for ensuring that we have more and more digital talents joining the ICT sector. Of course, now because of the COVID situation, it was not as possible as it used to be to participate in job fairs, ICT job fairs. But this is also something that the industry needs to empower itself in participating more and more to ensure that the ICT sector is presented in a normalized manner, in an accessible manner by the different students from different fields. And this is something that we have been doing as well through the ICT Academy. We have actually managed
My apologies, Giorgia. My apologies, Giorgia. Could you please come to an end? We have limited time.
Yes, I was. So thanks to these kind of opportunities, we were able, only in 2018, before the pandemic started, to introduce 2,000 students to the ICT industry. So it's very important that we normalize and communicate about the ICT and technology industry in an easy way to introduce more digital talents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Giorgia. And maybe I jumped in just a second too early there, and you were just coming to a close anyway. Apologies for that. If any participants have any questions or requests for clarification, we have planned in the schedule a little time. We see if we can still keep that now at the end of the panel. So if you have any questions, any remarks, please share them in the chat here on Zoom or also on the live stream on YouTube. And if we have time, we will get to those. But now, without delay, we will turn to Ciaran Conlon, who is the Director for European Government Affairs at Microsoft. Ciaran, what are your hopes, fears, and importantly, your ideas for digital competence development?
I thought you were asking me a much more philosophical question there for a second, Norman. I wasn't ready for that. Listen, first off, thanks, Peter and the team in All Digital. It's an incredible program to put together, and I know what a challenge that is. I was really struck by some of the comments by both Peter and Commissioner Gabriel earlier about both the regional dimension to some of these challenges, which are very I'm based in Dublin, but part of the Brussels policy team. So I'm very conscious of those regional challenges, and also the multi-stakeholder comments from Commissioner Gabriel and indeed her work on the Digital Education Action Plan. I think that political leadership, it can be taken for granted sometimes, but that sort of leadership is absolutely crucial if you're going to move the dial in any way. I'm enjoy these panels much more when we get the questions and answers from the audience, so I'll keep my comments reasonably short. The thing that strikes me about Microsoft's approach to this agenda, but others in a European context, is that it's driven straight out of our mission statement, as Jeremy set out, to empower every individual and organization to achieve more. In a European context, what's on the wall behind me here, Tech Fit for Europe, that's the platform that we use to drive that type of mindset that recognizes, tries to understand, and tries to support the ambitions of Europe in the digital and other contexts. For me, the thing that when all the conversation about skilling tends to come down to insiders and outsiders for me. That's how I think a lot of this crystallizes. And Microsoft's efforts in the skilling space tend to orient around that. So it's geographical insiders and outsiders, skills, background insiders and outsiders, gender-based, accessibility-based, trying to make sure that the type of economy and society that we're participating in is as inclusive as it possibly can. So in terms of major initiatives that Microsoft have driven in the last number of years, we had a global skills initiative that was launched immediately off the back of the pandemic. And I know my colleague Sylvie Lafarge is on the call as well, and Sylvie would have been right at the heart of driving that in a European context. And that meant reaching about 25 million people that would have been displaced or had challenges immediately arising from the pandemic, 9 million in Europe. And again, just trying to have a societal response to a challenge of that scale. At a sectoral level, then there would be initiatives. At the moment, there's a major focus on cybersecurity. This is before the tragic invasion of Ukraine, but that has come into even starker focus, that as we move to this increasingly digital society, one of the greatest challenges is the security of those systems and our data. And as a result, Brad Smith, our president, announced a major initiative in the United States to try and skill up 500,000 people with cybersecurity skills. That initiative is now moving to Europe. And again, to talk about those partnerships, Microsoft will be looking to partner in a multitude of European countries over the coming 6, 12, 18 months to try and drive a European version of that campaign. The last sort of area that I tend to think about in terms of the skilling is at a policy level, and that usually comes with the partnerships with government. And I'll speak to a couple of initiatives in an Irish context that I'm most familiar with, because my background before Microsoft was in politics and in government in Ireland, and the idea of garbage in, garbage out is where the problems often start in terms of the policy making. So that's why the consultation process about the DEAP is so important, but also in terms of having inputs from relevant stakeholders like industry or civil society is so important. In Ireland, 3 years ago, we started up a Masters in Digital Policy Studies program. in collaboration with the Irish government and situated in University College Dublin. And the idea there is to try and train the policymakers about how to approach these often quite complex, difficult technical issues that, in my experience working in government and around government, a lot of civil servants are from a social sciences background, and some of these digital issues often get pushed to the specialists in the department or an agency within government. So this master's program is designed to try and give every civil servant that is working on these issues greater confidence and greater ability to input constructively and shape better policies from the design stage. So instead of garbage in, garbage out, it's quality in, quality out. Jeremy just earlier talked about the Step Into Tech program here in Ireland. It's something we're very proud of here, with the subsidiary in Ireland working with a group called FIT, an NGO that's fast track into information technology, and again very specifically works at disadvantaged groups and cohorts that need that extra helping hand to transition into the new skills and the new opportunities that are available. And that involves a tailored and mentored program for each individual. We're hoping to reach 10,000 people on that course over a 2-year period, and that would feed back into our Global Skills Initiative. The last project that I think is particularly relevant is what can a company like Microsoft do is data. The better the data you have, the better the policy insights and the better policy outcomes you can derive. So one of the things that we're doing with the Irish government is a project that we call the Labour Market Pulse, and it's a quarterly initiative that pulls in LinkedIn's economic graph data and pools it with government data from the different enterprise agencies and training skills bodies within the Irish government, and gives you a much richer insight into what's happening in the labour market in real time. Because very often public sector data, there's a lag. So you might be 6 months behind the curve in terms of actually diagnosing the problem. So the quicker the data, the quicker the insights, the better the policy outcomes. And one of the things that has absolutely jumped out, and this could be a seminar in itself, is the issue of remote working from essentially zero base. The first time we tracked the data formally showed that 1 in 5 jobs being advertised on LinkedIn was being advertised as remote in an Irish context. In just 3 months, the last edition, I'll post it into the chat, has gone up to, sorry, it was 1 in 7 3 months ago, it's now 1 in 5. So 20% of jobs being advertised on LinkedIn are now offering remote. It creates huge opportunities, but also challenges, because first off, the skills to actually work remote and the skills for managers to manage people working remotely, which is probably one of the biggest challenges with the remote working concept. Then you have the connectivity challenge, and you get back to the insiders and outsiders. So if you're going to have an inclusive recovery and an inclusive society that allows for things like remote working in a substantive way, then you have to get all the different elements correctly, from the hardware to the software to the training and the skills for everybody to function in that new environment. So that's why this program, these activities, the All Digital Network is just such a great fit. We're so happy to be part of this program. And my last comment is to just thank Peter for putting 2 Irish people on a panel the week of St. Patrick's Day, our national day of celebration, which is Thursday. And just to thank him for recognizing that Irish dimension to this week.
Thank you very much, Ciaran. Yes, from our Irish perspective, we now go to our Italian leg of the panel. We start with the point of view from Giuseppina Tucci, who is the president of the Lifelong Learning Platform and the Secretary General of OBESSU, which is the organizing bureau of European School and Student Unions. Giuseppina, what is the importance of a lifelong learning perspective when it comes to digital competences?
That's a more philosophical question. I get the philosophical question though, but let me start by thanking all of you for having us with you here today. It's very good, not only because we get to see all digital and all of you and all of the different stakeholders involved in these discussions, but also because it's a good example of this word that we've been hearing throughout this panel, which is cooperation. And that's where I would like to start from. But before I do that, let me take 1 second to just introduce the Lifelong Learning Platform in case you don't know us. We are a European network of organizations working in the education and training sphere. Really, we like to say from cradle to grave. So we work from early childhood education to adult education, passing by volunteering, formal education in schools, in universities, in vocational centers, in apprenticeships, and so on and so forth. And we work to promote a holistic vision of lifelong learning to education. So really to try to make this message go forward that lifelong learning is not only adult education, it is a way of learning, and it is a way of learning to learn from the youngest possible age throughout our lives. And I think this is very well encompassed in the debate on digital education. And let me take a step backwards and move on to this cooperation discussion that we have been having. And I promise this goes into the discussion because when you ask what is the lifelong learning principles to digital education, I think the first and most important one is co-shaping and co-defining what is the learning that we're going to go through. And in this, I think we heard a lot. Let me be the critical friend of the panel here. So far, we've heard a lot about cooperating between the private and the public sector. We've heard very little about cooperating with civil society. That is not only the receiver of the digital technologies and of the digital education, but it is a co-shaper, is a co-definer. We co-define together and we co-design together the technological advancements of today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. And this falls very well into the debate on the European Year of Youth. And let me also put my hat of a student, of representing the students' constituency throughout Europe, to share that, you know, we have a big challenge, the challenge of young people not being considered old enough or not experienced enough to know the education they kind of want to participate in defining the skills of tomorrow. But actually innovation is very often started by young people in the most strange ways and in the most, you know, we have who would have thought that nowadays we get courses on how to engage with people on TikTok when TikTok is a creation of someone that is definitely not a 80-year-old person sitting in a boardroom somewhere over the ocean. But I think it is important that we take this discussion. We discussed what are the skills for the future of the jobs and the skills, what are the skills for tomorrow's future. We cannot do this without participation. We cannot do this without involving the students, the learners, the parents, the families, the communities of the schools in defining together what skills we want for tomorrow, because digital technology and digital learning is not only about the skills we get for the labor market and how prepared we are to working with technology, but also how prepared we are to participate in a digital world and to practice democracy in a digital world. Let's say that tomorrow we switch to online voting throughout the world. Imagine how many people lose their right to participate in democracy because they don't know how to use a tool or they don't know how to engage in the same way as the others. So I think lifelong learning is about all of this. It's about really making sure that we keep a key competencies approach to everything that we do, and digital learning has to start from there. It is very specialized learning, but it starts from very basic literacy and numeracy skills, and it starts from working, as we said, with the grassroots, with the rural areas, with the girls and the women that we want to engage. And let me take one step there because I think it's very important also as a woman to point this out. You know, it's very hard to be a recipient of a training for girls if girls are not involved in how they want to learn. If learning for girls is shaped by men, that learning for girls is never going to be attractive. And I think we need to be very self-critical of this and of the fact that sometimes we are very not so diverse. And so in this we have to keep into account. We want to reach out to the rural areas, we need to engage with the people from rural areas, and we need to engage with them in a true way, not in a tokenistic way. We need to be able to do all of this, and we can only do this if we work with schools and if we work with civil societies. And just to take one last step, I think we mentioned COVID-19, and I could go on and on about how much it taught us and how it was a big failure. And we called the digital revolution something that was just taking an old-fashioned way of doing education and putting it online, and teachers going nuts on not knowing how to use classrooms or any other software that they were using. But I could say that it also taught us a lot about reshaping education in the way we learn, in the way we assess. It put for us mental health in first place. Young people told us one thing for sure. I mean, everyone has told us, employees as much as young people, but people in education and training have taught us one thing. They are tired of learning in an old-fashioned way, of being assessed in an old-fashioned way, and they need to advance. And if we don't listen to them, and if we don't put, for example, mental health competencies in DigiComp, we are always going to be one step behind. We need to move forward and be able to acknowledge that, again, people that are in education, learners know exactly where they want to go. This is a bit the same with green and digital transition, this twin transition. This twin transition cannot happen if digital skills need to be green skills need to be digital. All of these need to be key competence. It needs to be put together by the competence of learning to learn and of giving the space to, again, co-shaping education. You know, why I say this is because we have, I'm sure you're all familiar with Fridays for Future. And those people are very young people who know exactly what they want a green society to look like. And I am pretty sure they would be able to tell you exactly what competencies they need for a green transition if they were given a platform to do so. So my remark on this is to businesses, to companies, to institutions, a partnership can work in also in a triangle. Let's not forget civil society out of the discussions on the future of skills and the future of digital education. And let's not forget that we can help a lot with the data. You know, you say we need to understand how people learn, how people feel, how people are, and we are the people who learn and the people who build that learning. You know, we work with teachers, we work with students, we work with parents. We have a lot of intelligence on what exactly we would need to go better. We can help a bit with, for example, helping to understand the right direction to invest into. Investment is a big topic and is also the topic of this year's lifelong learning platform annual theme. It's investing in lifelong learning, and we want to really understand how can we use investments in education to guarantee access while keeping a learner-centered approach and making sure that everybody has the same exact access to educational opportunities. And in this, I mean, Peter mentioned before, a lot of their network is actually in rural centers. I wish it was the same a bit everywhere. And this is also something we don't acknowledge enough, the fantastic role that non-formal education providers have. You know, we talked a lot about universities and schools and what they can teach, but there are several other small schools, independent schools, volunteering centers, group of youth workers or adult workers that work together to provide and give, for example, peer training or training on digital skills throughout Europe that require our support more than ever, let's say, in advancing this. And I could blah, blah, blah about this for a very long time, but I'm going to give the space for the others. But I hope, and I really mean it, that we can be each other's critical friend and that we can continue to cooperate to advance digital education in Europe, keeping in mind that people need to be at the center of it in every generation, that we need to learn among different generations. It's a matter of intergenerational justice, but it's also a matter of bringing out the best in ourselves and creativity and moving on in that direction. So thank you very much, and I shut up.
Thank you, Giuseppina. Please don't think for 1 second that what you delivered was blah, blah, blah. It was very important and very necessary to point these things out. And I think a common theme between all speakers so far has been what we need when it comes to digital competences, but also beyond that is a breaking down of barriers and an inclusivity approach that pulls together common resources, but also distributes these resources in a way that reaches everyone and ultimately benefits anyone, and is also to the benefit of those who would maybe only benefit less in the different approach. Speaking of that, one important actor for this probably are small and medium-sized enterprises. They not only make up the vast majority of the European economy, and not only are they a big element of users of digital systems and in need of possessing all kinds of levels of digital skills in their work. We heard Michael stating before that 90% today already of 90% of jobs need some level of digital competences. But these small and medium-sized enterprises are also innovators, creators, and developers of digital solutions. And to tell us more, let's hear from Sebastiano Toffaletti, who is the Secretary General of the European Digital SME Alliance. And yes, over to you, Sebastiano.
Thank you very much, Norman, for the nice introduction. And let me invert a little bit the order of my intervention. I want to start by addressing Giuseppina, who just spoke, because she gave an amazing intervention, in my opinion. And no, yours was not a blah, blah, blah. It was very, very important things. And I think all of us would agree with you. In particular, I would like to tell you, you said civil society needs to be a co-shaper, of digital education. Yes, absolutely, but not only that. As you said also, civil society needs to be a co-shaper of technology itself, and it needs to, because technology also helps us practice democracy. And you said, because what if ICT is going to be used, the technology is going to be used to cast the votes? Well, it is not just that, Giuseppina. It is much more than that, because it is already happening. Think what is happening with the platforms. The platforms are already influencing yours and my vote. They are already playing a big role in our society, in our democracy. And we, you and I, we have to, and all of us have to fight for a different world. And a different world needs that we have to find for a different technology, a technology which is open, which belongs to the people, okay? A technology which is not the property of a few big companies, a technology which is the property of everyone, of all the citizens of this world, okay? And in particular, the constituency I represent, the SMEs, they are there for this. They are there to say, look, we do also develop technologies, and this technology is democratic because it provides alternative, it provides competition, it provides openness, interoperability, right? So really, really, Giuseppina, this is what you said is super important, and you need to fight for your ideas. And consider that you are not alone. There are a lot of companies, independent providers of ICT technologies, which have exactly the same opinions as you. But to go through what I said, and I'm going to go back to what Giuseppina said, I'm sure about it. I obviously represent an association, the Digital SME Alliance, which has the digital SMEs, the digital small and medium-sized enterprises, the providers of technology, European providers of technology, small and medium-sized. We have about at least 45,000 of them in our associations, but there are hundreds of thousands around Europe, and we would like to speak for all of them. Going back to what Ms. Gabriel said, there is a big shortage of ICT professionals. She mentioned, and Jeremy later also, about 20 million professionals needed by 2030. This is the single biggest problem of our companies, which are not at the moment able to find sufficient practitioners to help them to grow. To help them to grow a technology which, again, is open, is crowdsourced, is not the property of a single, a few group of big multinational companies. Ms. Gabriel also spoke about the need for a collaboration. The task we have in terms of skills cannot be done only by the government, cannot be done only by the education sector alone. It needs to work with the society, it needs to work with the NGOs, it needs to work especially also with the industry. And I'm glad we spoke, we heard from two good examples, Huawei and Microsoft. I'm obviously there to say it's not just the big tech, it's also the SMEs who are there to help. They are absolutely committed to this challenge because they understand this is vital for the future of our economy and of our society. Our industry, I mentioned earlier, we are 45,000 companies, but there is a few hundreds of thousands companies, SMEs in the digital sector in Europe. They are responsible for our growth. The sector grows more than 10% every year, and it brings forward all the other sectors. It creates jobs, it's innovation. It makes our economy more competitive. And not only, but these are the companies which are the providers of digital solutions to other companies, to the traditional companies, to the traditional SMEs. So these are the digital SMEs that are enabling all the other SMEs of Europe to be digital, okay? And that's why this industry is very important, not just for itself, but for the role it has vis-a-vis the other companies and vis-a-vis the public administrations as well. So we want to, as I said earlier, the key is to keep ICT open. We want an open society, and we want to guarantee economic growth. Okay, if we work in technological silos, this is not going to happen. Lack of openness and lack of competition is not just a threat for the economy. Now we understand it. It is not just a threat for the economy. It is a threat for our society in general. Okay, and I think the example of the elections that you all know, I think it's very clear what is happening nowadays in Ukraine is also very clear. You know, those who control information control the state, control the people. And this all goes through the technologies. And many people in this panel spoke about environment, and open technology is also the key for a better environment. Why? Because you cannot imagine how much innovation we can put in existing products, in everything we are doing, if we let the power of ICT, an open ICT, because if every company can improve the products of other companies, think about the cars, you know, something very polluting, or our houses that need heating and cooling, and this is also very polluting. Think if we gave the data out to third-party companies, so much innovation could happen. You know, this is what we call crowd innovation. This is what happened with open source. You know, all this innovation that we have with our mobile phones will not be possible, which happened in the last 20 years, right? It will not be possible if it was not a crowdsourced innovation through open source. Let's be frank, it was not the ownership of Apple or other companies. It is the ownership of thousands and thousands of independent developers. Only this way we have the innovation that we have. Because what Apple does, they only take, they go out and take, or Google, they just take whatever is there available in open source and they convert it into their products. And they are good because of that, right? But this is only possible because we have a crowdsourced innovation. We have to, Giuseppina, especially you, the young people, the students, you have to understand this. Because if you believe that technology is the ownership of company A, B, C, Z, then we are lost, and we are lost forever, believe me. Now, just to go to the conclusion, because I know, Norman, you are in a hurry to go on with the event, just let me say, the companies we represent, they are willing to do their share. And I advise everyone to take an internship in an ICT small and medium-sized enterprise or a training program from these companies, because an internship in a small company means that you will not only learn to use a tool, a digital tool, you will learn to create a digital tool, okay? And this is what we want. We want people that can think. They can not just be users, but shapers of our digital technologies. And this is really what happens when you do an internship in digital companies. A few years ago, we did a small exercise together with the European Commission when they were running a program which was called European Digital Skills and Job Coalition. And we said, okay, all of them individually, no SME can claim they will train thousands and thousands of people as Google and others are doing. Okay, so we will do it as an association. We will claim that we will, in 1 year time, we will train at least 5,000 people. And we said, okay, now let's get it to our companies. And they did it. It was just a small percentage of what SMEs can do. They trained 5,000 people, and we have all of that documented, of course. But this was just a small share, just to give a sample, just to give an example of the power of these small companies when they are all together and when they work for the same purpose. Now that we have the sad situation with Ukraine, our companies have said we are committed to do our share. And that's why they asked us, our members asked us to create a portal, which is going to go live in a few days, which is going to be called ICT Skills and Jobs for Refugees, not open, not only to Ukrainian refugees, but all the refugees and also economic immigrants that want to come to Europe for better chances. And we're going to have there the jobs that are offered, the ICT jobs that are offered by our companies and by everyone else. And also not just the jobs, but also the skilling opportunities, because we already understood that we need to integrate these people. We don't need to just give them a short-term job opportunity, because they will stay probably for longer. And so our companies understood that we have to train them. We have to provide skilling opportunities and so on and so forth. COVID, some of you mentioned COVID, which was a big boost to our sector, to our industry, to the use of technologies. And I'm very glad that when COVID erupted in the first month, we put together another portal, which was called the Digital Solutions for COVID-19. And it was a collection of SME-generated solutions for people to work from home, for people to do anything with their computers, solutions for schools, solutions for public administrations, solutions for citizens. And this was all powered by our European SMEs. So this was a good testimony that it is possible, and we can do it, and we are doing it. There is much more I would like to say, but I know time is running, so I give back the floor to Norman and to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastiano. I think it's the same with all speakers, that there's always more to say in this discussion that need us entering and
Norman, can you please adjust your mic, because we can't really hear you? Maybe this way. I think so.
Okay. So thank you very much, Sebastiano, also for pointing out the very worthy initiative that is launching for the refugees. That is very much
no, again, it's not very no.
Okay. Then we'll keep it very short and come over to Altheo, who will speak on behalf of All Digital.
Okay, here. Thank you very much, Norman. And really thanks to all the speakers and partners who are contributing to the launch of our All Digital Weeks initiative. It was really dense of information and very precious contribution. So I'm not going to take very long, also because we want to give the chance to the public to ask questions. But definitely I can comment that this round of targeted discussion was really putting in place what our dearest Commissioner Gabriel proposed at the very beginning, so that we can really concretize the digital transformation thanks to large-scale innovation where all the stakeholders are involved. So I'm very glad that we managed to host you all today. And my role here is actually to focus shortly about the main objective of our campaign that are linked, of course, to our strategy and our main priorities. With All Digital Weeks, we are really willing to enhance digital skills for all the people, not only the European citizens, but everyone who is in Europe. And I would say, particularly in this period, we have the chance also to include many people in need. So this is really a call to all our members and everyone who is interested to join us for the next months to celebrate digital skills, to do it in the most inclusive way. All Digital has two main goals that we want to achieve during the next years, and definitely our main concern is to contribute to shaping digital transformation with digital education. So this is where we want to contribute, and we want to do it in a way that digital skills will be more and more understood and integrated in a transversal way to all the sectors of the society, thinking about the development of the person at all possible level, professional, but as also Giuseppina said, in a civic, thinking about the participation in a civic democratic environment. We are supporting our members in equipping the people to achieve these goals with digital skills, with confidence, and with the mindset that allow them to understand how digital transformation can contribute to the development of the society and to their own personal development. So here we are switching from a strategy that is completely focused on the development of basic digital skills to a more complex challenge where the objective is not only to let the people be literate in the digital world, but to let them be aware of how they can then continue to grow and to also transfer these competencies to those who have less tools and less opportunities to really take the most from the digital transformation. So really, I don't want to speak more because I really want to give the chance to our audiences to contribute, and I wish you all, I wish us first of all a great month, and I wish all the participants in the All Digital Weeks initiative great success, fun, and really we hope that you will enhance your digital skills in any possible way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Altheo. I hope the microphone is now working a bit better.
It's good.
Yes, and also thank you very much to all speakers. I think there was a very fruitful contributions from very different angles. And as always, time is always short to discussion to go into the depth that you want to, and there's always more to say on these things. And maybe it's a good thing that we start the digital weeks with an open discussion, because we are addressing a lot of these issues in the events and weeks to come. Since we haven't really received any questions from the audience, and we are also a bit behind on schedule, I propose that if there are any contributions from the speakers and any clarifications they want to make, any corrections they want to give as a feedback, that they send us to us, and we will include it in the reporting of this event. And I hand now over to my colleagues, and thank you all for participating in our panel.
Thank you, Norman, and thank you very much, all panelists, to join the discussion, which I very much enjoyed, and I'm sure that everyone in this room benefited from your perspectives and opinions. Now I'd like to invite you, having a few minutes left, to listen to our presentation on the All Digital Weeks program, and how anyone can join and participate in the campaign in about 10 minutes time frame, and then we finish. And I'd like to invite my colleague Victoria Sanz to make this presentation.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being with us today. And I would like to present this campaign on behalf of my colleague Andrea, wishing him a good recovery today. I hope I can do this. Let me know if you can see my screen at the moment. Hang on.
Yes.
All right. Hang on. All right. So I will present to you the All Digital Weeks campaign 2022. For all of you that know the campaign for previous years, this year we're happy to introduce the All Digital Weeks campaign, which consists of 5 weeks of events. Previously, the campaign was run throughout 1 week, but this year we modified it, and now we are presenting the campaign that will last for a month and a week. So the motto of the All Digital Weeks campaign is a call to action for all the Europeans to take an active part for a better future, enhance your digital skills. That's the aim and the name of the campaign. I invite you to quickly or briefly check out our websites and use our hashtags for any other promotion materials or events that you participate in. Those are the hashtags, and they will be shared also in the chat, so you can use them. The All Digital Week campaign tries to tackle the issues that we have encountered with the throughout the years. We acknowledge high demand for the EU population to enhance digital skills. First of all, 42% of the EU population has shared that they feel that they don't have the basic digital skills. And this year is taking into the opportunity of the European Year of the Youth. We have acknowledged that 20% of young people fail to reach a basic level of digital skills. Also, 39% of teachers don't feel ready to use digital technologies in their work. And 29% of people, they're not confident that they can identify this information. And especially in these times that we are living, this is a very important issue. All in all, 72% of people, they feel that the digital world is beyond their skills, and they don't feel prepared to go ahead in their personal but also in the professional world. For this reason, the campaign aims to tackle these issues on several themes. We have 5 themes this year, and this campaign was run since 2010. As I mentioned previously, this year we will run it for 5 weeks, which I will present each theme of each week quickly now. We won't have so much time at the moment, but before I go and explain the program of the All Digital Weeks, I would like to thank all our strategic partners that have participated and have contributed enormously by sharing and promoting and creating events for this campaign. First of all, we would like to thank the European Parents Association. Secondly, Europeana. Thirdly, the Organizing Bureau of European School Students Union. The European Associations of Institutes for Vocational Training, the European Digital SME Alliance, Media and Learning Association, the European Federation for Intercultural and Learning, the DSIS Network, and Lifelong Learning Platform. Thank you very much for all your events and contributions for this campaign. We don't have to forget our supporters of the campaign, Certiport, Huawei, and Microsoft, who have greatly supported our campaign, and without their help, this wouldn't have been possible. So thank you very much. So the campaign for the first week, that is today the launch event for this first week. This week is supported by Huawei and Microsoft, and we will have 3 events. One of them was this launch event, and thank you very much for joining us today. The second event will be tomorrow at 2. It's organized by the DSIS Network, a social economy towards digital and social inclusion. And on the 18th March, we will have a media literacy for parents. This is a project final webinar organized by the European Parents Association. I invite you to go on our website and find out more about these events, so you can join and find out more about the campaign. The second week is aimed at fostering digital literacy and tackle disinformation. This week is supported by Certiport, and we will have also 3 events for now. As this campaign is ongoing, most of the events have not, maybe we will receive new events. So most of the events are confirmed, but there might be changes. Therefore, I really recommend you to join and to check our channels, our websites, to be up to date with what's happening in the events. So far, what's planned for this second week is these 3 events. The first is a webinar supported by Certiport, which it will launch and welcome the second week. The second event on the 23rd March is a webinar by the European Project Action Project. And this week, since it's aimed for fostering and tackling disinformation, is also very well related to the European Year of Youth. Therefore, the second event is how to support young people to use digital tools for active participation. And the third event is a joint webinar from 2 European projects, Amelie and Kral, and it will discover innovative approaches to enhancing media literacy and media literacy of students and teachers. The third week, it's
thanks to the contribution of the GRC, and the main theme is promoting the use of the European Digital Competence Framework, DigiComp, and exploring the development of the European Digital Skills Certificate. In this week, we will fund several events. First of all the weeks have one launch event, the webinar, and this will be with a contribution of the GRC on the 28th of March. The second event, Biblio Project, will host a webinar in which you will be able to explore and exchanging ideas on transforming libraries in the digital age. On the 30th of March, the Transvaal European Project webinar will take place, and you will be able to explore the digital skills as transversal skills. And last will be, you will have the opportunity to discover a very good example of the use of the DigiComp system in the Hungarian DigiComp system to assess and improve the digital competence of citizens. The webinar will be provided by All Digital, by Digital Success Program Hungary. And the last week, sorry about that. Oops, not working. One moment. Oh, yes. And the fourth week, Achieving Cybersecurity and Safer Internet, is again thanks to the support of Microsoft. In this week, we will have two events. One will be the launch event of the week, and supported by Microsoft. And in the 6th of April, we will host, thanks to the European Project Rayuela, a webinar on EU projects on cyberbullying and youth. Said so, we might have more events this week. So I invite you to please check our channels for more updates on this. On the week and the last week of the campaign, at the moment is the more dense week. It's full of events for now, and we are happy to see that we are getting more and more contributions. This week is aimed at improving STEM and STEAM skills for society and encouraging girls and women's participation in STEM studies and careers. You may see that we have a few events. Of course, the launch event. Secondly, Equals EU European Projects will host an innovation camp to promote female presence in STEM matters. On the 12th of April, also, we will have a 3D print, which is a European project. They will host a multiplier live event and with an online component. On the 13th of April, the Social Academy project will host a webinar on hackathon trainings. This will be hosted by our Gina. And also the Simon Edu project will host a webinar on relaunch of the MOOC and policy recommendations on the project. And on the 14th of April, we'll invite you to participate on the closing event for the All Digital Weeks campaign. And we will provide you more information about these events in the upcoming weeks. Well, we would like to explain how can you participate if you would like to join and to do more for this campaign. You can organize a national, regional, or local event or training on digital skills. You can choose any theme you want, and you can add the events on the map. We will share with you the links on our chats and also on our channels. Secondly, if you can share your event or training on social media channels and use the hashtags as previously mentioned. And thirdly, you can encourage your network and partners to run events trainings during the 14th of March until the 14th of April. You can invite them to attend the international events, providing them with information on the All Digital Weeks 2022 and the international events calendar. That's how you can take part on our campaigns. At the moment, we have more than 100 events and more that are coming, and they are taking place in more than 20 countries. You can join us, follow our website, and we would like to thank you for your time and for being here today. Thank you very much. I would like to give the floor back to Peter.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you for the brief and concise and informative summary of the All Digital Weeks. As you could see, we have already planned plenty of events at the international level, but also a lot of local events and trainings are happening. So we are trying to collect all this information on the All Digital Weeks website and encourage anyone in Europe to follow up on these activities, either at international, European, or even national, local levels. Finally, because we are over time, again, just thank you very much for your participation, and thank our speakers, Commissioner Mariya, Gabriel, representatives of Huawei and Microsoft, and all the panelists where the voice of the civil society was also heard. Thank you again, and I think I would like just to wish you all happy all digital weeks. Thank you again, and have a nice afternoon. And yeah, just keep